These are the best heroes for solo carrying in the current season, Season 34. One of the most important criteria for these heroes is that you should be able to accomplish a lot on your own using these heroes, despite sometimes having less experienced teammates. The list will include heroes who are banned almost every single match, such as Ling, Hayabusa, Roger, Suyo, Sushing, Hylos, and Sask. Without further ado, let's start with the list. Nolan is a great jungler for solo carrying because of his ability to move around extremely quickly, insane burst damage, and can quickly get a kill and retreat immediately. But just like many assassins, you gotta be patient with your timing. If you die head first into a teamfight, you will get bursted down instantly before you even have a chance to unleash the full combo. You also gotta learn how to spend his energy efficiently because you don't want to be out of energy before the big clash. A little bit of a downside with this hero is that he's purple buff dependent, so it's important to keep an eye on the buff timer and don't let the opponents be sneaky and steal it. Julian is an excellent carry since he can start bursting heroes right from the early game without much farm. You can say he gets his ult by level 3 because his enhanced skills are pretty much his ult. His different combos might seem a bit overwhelming at first, but once you have played him a few times, you will see that it's a lot simpler than you might think. This hero can really carry a lot of your games if you know what you are doing and can make quick in-game decisions about which enhanced skills are more suited for each situation. Popo is probably the fastest marksman at destroying objectives, and with this attribute alone makes him an excellent choice for solo ranking. Sometimes you can solely focus on the objectives and win games that way. But of course, that's not all about this marksman. He can delete a target in a very short period, and the shield he gets from his second skills allow him to sustain a decent amount. Only recently I realized how insanely strong this marksman is and how you can easily rank up with him. Alice recently received a huge buff. Now her mana consumption is no longer an issue, which was something that made her struggle a lot before this adjustment. Now you don't have to worry too much about her mana and can start doing a lot more in the early game. Her role is quite versatile. You can play her in almost any lane, even as a jungler. But since you want to be carrying solo rank, probably the best choice will be either in the mid lane, gold lane, or jungler. Ruby was nerfed a little bit in the recent update, but she still remains a very solid fighter. Her incredible sustain and many crowd control skills with very low cooldown makes her a very versatile pick in solo rank. You can play her as the offlaner, roamer, or even as the gold laner. She can pretty much 1v1 any marksman in the game, and in the late game her damage output ain't too shabby either. If you see that the opponents have many burst heroes and can easily eat your favorite marksman for breakfast, then I will highly recommend trying Ruby as the gold laner. You'll be very surprised how amazing she is, even in this role. Harley is really great for snowballing the opponents, and even better in solo rank, because players are usually less coordinated, which means more opportunities to catch their squishies off guard. He is one of the best at getting the kill and then getting out immediately. Usually it's better to play him as a jungler, but even as the mid laner he can do very well. If you see that the opponents have a dashless mid laner like Eve, Chang'e, Cecilion, Nana, and so on, then if you pick Harley, you can easily and constantly keep killing them and making their mid laner almost non-existent in teamfights. Harith is still a very solid hero even with some nerfs here and there. Back then everyone only played him as the jungler, but nowadays it's more recommended to play him as the gold laner or even as the mid laner. If the opponents have tons of crowd control skills, then use Purify, but if that's not one of your main concerns, then use Vengeance. Using Vengeance will make you sustain an insane amount with the combination of those countless shields you get from his second skill. It's really hard to kill a fed Harith, especially with Vengeance. Also, he deals a massive amount of damage in a short period. But one thing to keep in mind is that if your jungler is a magic damage dealer, then you don't want to pick another magic damage dealer as the gold laner, because then it's gonna be very easy for the opponents to build full magic resistant items and counter you both, who are the main damage dealers. Vayne has become a really popular jungler in the past few months. If you have never tried him before, you will not realize how much damage his first skill deals. Go with full physical damage items and you will start almost one-shotting all the squishes on the opposite side. And the best thing is that you can spam it from afar, using the opponent's minion to ricochet it, which is how you should use his first skill, since it deals more damage to its targets after the first bounce. But let's not forget about his ultimate and second skill. The whole skill sets make him a force to be reckoned with. Just gotta remember to keep poking the opponents with your first skill and not fully commit before the right timing. Alpha is a really great choice because he can clear jungle camps extremely fast, which is really important for that role. Also, his true damage helps a lot to take care of those super tanky heroes, since true damage completely ignores all types of resistance. He's really strong right from the start, and that helps a lot if the opponent decides to invade your jungle, and for contesting the objectives. If your team also has flooring, then he becomes an absolute nightmare to deal with, because of how much he will be able to sustain. Ixia requires a lot of patience and timing when playing her. You gotta know when it's a good time to fight or when you should be farming, because the most important thing is that as long as you get farm, you will always have that trump card to completely turn the tide of battle. You probably have found yourself in this situation often, that your team was struggling from the early game. Like they are losing all the lanes and subsequently, the opponents will start ganking your lane more often as well. If you are playing a standard marksman, then it's really hard to overcome such a disparity. But with Ixia, that's a different story, because if you time your ult properly, you will always have a very good chance to make a comeback with her. Amon is a really underrated hero. You don't see him being picked often anymore. But in order to really have a high success rate with him, you really gotta know how to time your entrance and not dive headfirst into the fight. His combo can pretty much one-shot most heroes, including tanky ones. Also, his mobility is pretty great as well when he has his camouflage on, which will allow you to roam around the map a lot quicker. Ganking is a really important aspect for the jungler role, so mobility is really important for this role. Moskov was nerfed a little bit, but despite that, he's still a very solid marksman choice. He can become a one-man army if you know how to farm properly. And in the late game, you can even choose to go for the split pushing strategy, because he can clear the wave extremely fast and take down objectives just as fast. And if your team requires you to join the team fight, like when contesting for the neutral objectives, you can easily be there in an instant with his ultimate. Most solo players really don't want to take the roamer role, because they feel that they cannot do much if the teammates are inexperienced. But there are a couple of exceptions, and Edith is one of them. You can go full defensive build, and maybe just one offensive item such as Stardom Sight. You'll be able to sustain so much, while at the same time you can dish out so much damage as well. That's the best part playing Edith, because if your team needs a frontline, she can do that. But also if you want to do some of the carrying as well, she perfectly checks those two boxes. Just get that Thunderbell as soon as possible and start getting those stacks. A decent jungle can really annoy the hell out of the opponents. If their jungler is busy fighting somewhere and you have been keeping track of their buff timer, then you can really delay his farm by constantly stealing those buffs. But that's not all. She can clear waves extremely fast, and most importantly, from a very safe distance. She has a lot of movement speed, so catching her is not the easiest task, especially if you know how to position yourself during these fights. Also, she can destroy buildings at incredible speed, especially if you build her with 1 or 2 attack speed items. But don't use this attack build if your team is lacking a solid frontline, because you won't have much chance to do basic attacks. Last but not least, I think many will be surprised that I'm including this hero, and I might be a bit biased here, but I cannot help but to include him since I got a very high win rate with him even in solo rank, and I've seen firsthand how much he can single-handedly carry the game if you really have mastered the macro and micro of this hero. A Cyclops who knows when to fight, how to farm, how to position himself during the team fights, and know his limitation potential is really hard to deal with. There have been plenty of times that I was matched with less experienced players than the opponents, but because Cyclops can do a lot on his own, he can really carry those heavy loads. He is considered a very weak hero by many, but in the right hand, you can say he can almost become an S tier hero, especially in solo rank if there's no counter like Lolita. And that's all for this list. Remember that the most important thing is not really the heroes themselves, but the player. So just really master whatever hero you want to play, and you will still be able to perform well. But let's be honest, there are some heroes that definitely will give you an edge, such as the heroes in this list and the meta ones. Anyway, that's all for now. Good luck climbing this season and thanks for watching. See ya.